like to introduce Justin Long-Moton. He is a writer, a spoken word artist, and activist. Hailing from the silver skylines of New York, he prides himself on being a voice for the people. He just recently began furthering his education as a freshman here at Adelphi University. He is a member of the 2010 Urban Word Slam team, which won first place at the Brave New Voices International Poetry Slam. It's not all that. No. He is a 2010 New York Knicks Poetry Slam winner and is a former New York City Youth Poet Laureate. He has performed in venues locally to across the country, from the world-renowned Apollo Theater to the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills, California. And through the use of telepresence technology, he has taken the stage digitally in Manchester, England. His work has been featured on HBO, CBS, AOL Black Voices, MSG Network, Hot 97, NPR, and Nickelodeon. Also, he has a book for sale, right? Manual, I believe it's called, right? Yes. So if you'd like a copy, be sure to buy one, and they'll sign it for free. So it's great. Sis, please give a good round of applause.
First off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and showing support and showing the love of literature and of words. Because at the end of the day, I believe that's all we have. Once we put something into the atmosphere, once we put words into the atmosphere, they can never be erased. They can never be taken away. I'm a firm believer in the power of words. And I wouldn't be standing here before you if I didn't have my own voice, if I didn't become, as I like to be, the voice of the voiceless. And I like to carry the message for those that have been muted because of their circumstance or whatever the matter may be. This is the first time I've ever, because I'm also a spoken word artist, so I do perform, on large stages in front of thousands of people. But this is the first time I'm deciding to just completely read the performance. I'm just gonna, for the first time, completely read from my new book here, and it's called Manual because it's divided into 4 steps as well as a warranty. And the whole concept of the book is that you possess the tools necessary to build the life that you desire to get you to the place where you're going. And sometimes it may take, unexpected wrecking ball. It may take, demolition. But at the end of the day, you can stand. You can be a monument amongst rubble. And so that's where these poems stem. So I'll just jump right into them. Some I'll, give you stories behind them. And yeah. So the first poem I read, and some may be, some poems are more universal and others are personal. I decided to, this is the first time me just showing the world who I am internally and externally. So the first poem it's called In the Beginning. In the beginning there was me, face chiseled marble and an earthen screech that peeled paint from walls. My arrival mysterious as the Big Bang was sudden. An unexpected surge of gust, cracking windows into runways of light, and we flew in. Sky's cargo, a 9-month delivery made right on schedule, touched down on the most miserable day of the week, Monday. Hates its reflection. It is the first work day, rush hour traffic, a migraine lingering from Friday night's cocktails and shimmy. A stoic July rendered me intrusive. Held in the burrows of my mother's arms, I imagined her gazing down in reverie, eyes wide in awe that this life had blossomed inside her, believing her body was unworthy of such miracles. This is all speculation, the mind's theory on origin, another unphotographed genesis. No one wanted memories. When envisioning my first breath, I see pale infant citizen to 2 realms, this one and the ghostly. He is crying with a wrench clutched in his fist. section is it's titled Architecture. So as everyone knows, you know, the beginning of architecture is the blueprint. You know, that's the foundation. So the first few poems are basically the foundation of my life, what my, you know, original circumstance was built on. So this is a poem. It's one of the more personal poems in the book. It's called First Dates, and it's one of two poems. It's a series poem. Later on in the reading, I'll read its counterpart. First Dates. She was never brimstone curled in fetal position. He neither Romeo singing the rust off a park swing, burnt rice, and wormwood wedding vows. My mother is miles from submissive. Seductive maverick in her own right, she could sweet talk the wandering bullet back into its barrel. My stepfather is a large man, bullhorn stubble, shaving the cowbells from his chin, steering wheel kind of faith, used to drive buses from New York City to out there. I'd like to think that's how they met. She running away from herself, he a one-way ticket to nowhere, a love story scribbled in chicken scratch cursive, but I will be reluctant to tell my children the truth. It will roll off the tongue in a low whimper, like the first shovel of dirt into a grave. I will tell them, Grandma and Grandpa's eyes danced one dusty afternoon in Harlem. He saw her, slouched over, sitting on a milk crate with $1 rolled into a skinny funnel. Asked, do you need an extra set of nostrils to finish that? She smiled. And a lot of the poems in the book are adaptations of poems that I had at one time competed with, poems that I had slammed. So I decided to take some of the poems that I competed with and, you know, had on stage in front of, you know, the crowds, and decided to, you know, edit and chisel at it to where it fits on paper. Because I believe that there's a distinct difference between stage poetry and page poetry. This book, going through the process of the book, helped me distinguish that big difference. So this next poem is titled "You're a Dead Man Walking," and this poem kind of has some irony in it because I wrote it originally about my brothers. Both my brothers have you know, been incarcerated, and you know, they lived very dangerous lives. They lived very dangerous lives, and it's not like, you know, they hadn't been given warning. And I had the pleasure, as was mentioned in the introduction, I had the pleasure of representing New York City at the Brave New Voices International Slam. So I was on a team, and one of my teammates, you know, he's like a brother to me. His name is Sean. And the night after I wrote this poem, he called me. He was the first person I was the first person he called, and he told me that his brother had been murdered. The night after I wrote this poem. So I dedicated it dedicated for my brothers, and it's including his brother as well. So yeah, I found irony in this poem. You're a dead man walking, vibrates skull, skipping of smooth stones across the sober face of a pond, warning, echoing through bone. Yet the gallows can't hold this molten black, nonchalant toward reapers knocking. Revolver becomes signatures for negotiations with death. Invalid, barrel smoke doesn't heave in cursive. You're a dead man walking, but black boy, black brother doesn't believe in the man's rope burn. Cannot handcuff this myth of flesh saddled to charred yesteryears, riding through the ghetto on a ration of crack rock stallion, addictive buck distributed evenly amongst cousins of poverty, satisfied being fiend's wet dream, beauty's carcass. You're a dead man walking, mother warns, becomes a turned shoulder,
spit in the face of Lady Day, old, new western dust. You're a dead man walking, a vibrate skull, like the pond, black boy, black brother, will miss his ripples once the tongue grows tired of throwing warning stones just to be ignored.